Set the paper down, said this meeting is adjourned.
Wow. Oh, Ralph, I don't know if you remember, but it was my idea for the petitions, and there was a woman there who was fighting against it. They didn't want the petitions, and I said, we've got to have petitions. And so we got petitions.
Really shows the power of we the people, that we can overcome
Yeah,
anything if we
right.
work together.
Absolutely.
Sage, you got some coffee?
Yes,
You got coffee?
Yeah.
With some cake? Do you like the cake?
I can't eat it.
Can't eat cake
Yeah.
Don't worry, Molly,
Thank
I'll
you,
help
though.
you.
or ice cream?
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
eat some more cake.
Very,
Okay.
very,
It's
very
delicious, by the way.
allergic to dairy.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, we got enough coffee to call people off the road.
Thank you. Yeah.
Come on.
I saw some people.
I don't see anybody
Looks like
else.
they were
You see anybody else?
maneuvering there, but it's a stop sign, that's why, so.
Oh, yeah, there's a stop sign down there. Yeah, so I guess we should be good, huh? Let me,
Yeah, I can't review it.
Sure,
I used to wait
I won't
till,
be able to hear that coffee perking.
okay.
Let me see if it's perking and then I'll.
Okay.
8 minutes I will allow for it.
Black button.
Just to let you guys know we are live.
This is IMGGOP.
What shall we talk about in the meantime?
Let's see. A good topic. Young filmmakers.
No, he's awful.
Young filmmakers.
And this town should really have more young filmmakers and actually like its own Sundance. I mean, we have Netflix here all the time. Maybe Netflix could provide for the youth to get the cameras they need and the scripts and writing.
Well, YouTube is proof of the pudding.
people are still
The
being
whole industry came from
I went,
people just
they
filming.
took my friend to go take
Anything.
some papers to,
Take cinematograph
she
to
got
the
her
whole thing.
taxes done. The guy
The
said,
cinematograph happened, movies
seniors
happened,
get
cinema
$600
happened.
off of their thing,
We're in a different era.
thanks to the
Completely
beautiful
different era.
bill.
Now you can have more.
ARP is the one that went over there and with all the
Yeah, it's,
petitions and that's what squashed it. That's
I
why we got the
imagine in our
$600
lifetimes, someone will be able to sit down, write a story, and make a movie just as impactful as George
I have
Lucas
the-
Beautiful for him.
with the
Yeah.
technology that's available now. Agreed.
I have a letter,
Actually,
that I
it's
got
already
from ARP saying, you know, how they fought to get that. I'm gonna take her to show it to her when I go take her back to get her papers.
While I wait, I'm just gonna pass out some images
It's,
to look at and just
It's
pass it
unreal,
back
you
up.
know, you can't
Start
really,
this way,
Thank you.
look through the images.
hey Elena,
How are you doing?
I'm just passing around some images to take a peek at, and then just pass them back up because I'm gonna show everybody else the same images.
okay,
And
I
then,
think we should start. Oh, good, Elena, welcome. Everybody, this is Elena.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Claire.
I'm well.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to
Okay, keep your
keep
ears.
my ear open. If you hear
Hi, how are you?
any purple,
I'll keep my ear
let me know.
Nice to
I
meet you.
usually do for 8
How
minutes.
are you doing?
Of course.
Okay, I think we should come a little
I like the
closer.
hair.
Oh, thank you.
Little circle
way?
here.
Good.
This is my favorite chair, so maybe I'll grab it.
Closer in this one.
Oh, sweetie?
You want it closer in this
Yeah, yeah, so we can hear each other. And Sequoia's, he's running the show. So
Gonna do a little bit
So
of,
that one
Ralph, you got a chair?
is pretty comfortable too though.
I'm gonna bring
you
Clara.
guys,
Clara.
Okay,
you guys are actually looking much better that way.
Okay,
So
thank
much
you.
better.
Ralph,
So very much
oh,
better.
there's a chair over there for you.
Thanks.
Okay,
All right.
okay, welcome everybody.
And just as a notion of safety, because, you know, today's media is not safe for everyone. This is going live right now. Anyone have any objections to that?
Habla más recio.
There we go.
Can't hear you.
No objection.
No objection. So, yeah, no objection to being live on camera. I'm passing around some images that I'm going to present here in a bit. While we're doing that, just going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing here. First, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Sequoia Romero. I know all of you really know me except for one. But for those who may watch later, I'm an engineer, a scientist. I was a soldier. And, what I found myself doing after I had a daughter is becoming a philanthropist in a way, almost unwillingly, but I couldn't help myself. And so first I want to thank Molly for hosting this very first meeting for the A.S.C, which is a new organization, we're hoping. We're here because we all feel the same weight. For years, we've tried to all the standard ways to make change. All the things we've tried, voting, writing to Congress, filming, screaming at the top of our lungs that something is wrong. Is asking the Crown for permission. That's what we've been doing. It's a high risk, low reward, and it keeps us dependent on the system we all hate. Nothing has changed, really. If you go back in time, looking at us trying to keep people from misbehaving up in the upper echelon of government, upper echelon of business and wealth, we just haven't been able to make that much of a change, unfortunately. So I'm going to read a little piece of material here. It's a little prepared speech. Before we dive into the logistics, I want us to look at the world for exactly what it's become. We often look at the greed, the corruption, and the unsavory characters in power, and the first thing that comes to mind is that they are the problem. But if we really, really look at this deeply, study this, we find that they're actually a symptom of the real problem. Our current way of economics is a machine. The way we do things, the way we were taught and presented to do things is a machine. It's old, heavy, grinding engine designed to extract the value at any cost. And like any machine of that design, it sputters. It leaks pollution into our communities. It pours filth into our culture. And it ultimately costs humanity its soul just to keep the gears turning. We've spent so much time trying to fix the exhaust or polish the chrome, but the engine itself is built to burn us as fuel. There's an image going around right here. I'm going to show the camera that. Of course, I have to linger for a moment so people can see. This right here is a coin or a seal representing what's going on. If you look at this image right here, it shows the distribution. Wealth is the large distribution. This is the only one.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to pass it right back around. What we see here is the model of how business is done worldwide. Right here, this little sliver represents the 1%, actually less than 1%, that everybody gets paid to make someone else wealthy. That's how we do it. And it's funny because we all get caught doing it when we start businesses. I almost did the same thing. My father, he was an entrepreneur, jeweler himself. What we do is we say, well, I started the business, the company, I own the property, the equipment. I should get paid the most. Okay? If you look at what it costs to run the whole thing over time, it's this little tiny pinch right here. It's 10%, 5% on average. Now, I'm not saying that all businesses reflect less than 1%, but that's the average. There are some businesses that pay their employees a little bit more, but that's not the average. It's different. So this seal right here, you'll find at the very middle a symbol that we generated. Call it the gear of greed. You'll notice that it's two arms that shake its own hand. Okay? Right? Doesn't that sound about what greed is? So I'll pass this one right about around again, so you can reflect on that one. There's another image that I want to grab. There's let's see, power of the gear of greed. So, as a result of this old machine, what we currently experience is what we're currently experiencing worldwide. Okay? We have the top 1% accumulating all the wealth, crushing everyone else beneath it. And there isn't much we can do about it because, well, once again, we only have 1% of the power and the wealth and the ownership of everything around us. Okay, so it's majority of global population is down here. We know this structure. It's like the all-seeing eye. It's an old structure. It's been around for a long time. Heck, if we look at where it came from, the pyramids, they tell us that it was built by labor. It wasn't voluntary. And if you look at that as a kind of a structure that's fallen through the time, you know, when everyone isn't getting paid their right amount, their fair share, we call that indentured servantry. Pass the one around again. Okay. All right, so well, we aren't here to stay in an age of steam and smog. We're moving toward a machine that is advanced, simple and elegant. Imagine a system where the parts don't grind against each other, but move in perfect frictionless symbiosis. A machine that where every rotation generates prosperity and restores every single cog it works with. This is what the A.S.C is. It's a clean, high-performance social technology that gently, firmly replaces the clunking wreckage of the past with something that finally makes sense for the 21st century. The image that I have going around is a structural cog of a pyramid. But this time, you see a distribution that's a little different. All around, you see that there's a 1, 1, 1, and then a 7 right in the middle. What that represents is those that are building the pyramid, those that are working, get paid the 70% or the 7 out of the 10 that they deserve. They're the ones that are there. They're the ones putting in the groundwork. They're the ones coming up with new technology. They are floating all these companies and that 1% where they are. In other words, a simple way to look at it is if the A.S.C was in full motion right now, we earned $10 because we all went out there and worked. 7 of those dollars get split evenly between all of us, as it should be. A large percentage. Another 10% goes to savings. Another 10% goes to universal benefits. And on the final last 10% is there to run things. We call that overhead. Okay. So now that I've gotten past all that, I can read this last part. We aren't just planting new seeds. We're changing the entire substrate. We're replacing the very earth that the system grows in. By shifting our new model of shared sovereignty and collective wealth, we're creating a foundation where those old parasitic weeds simply cannot survive. We're building the nutrient-rich ground where only prosperity and liberty can take hold. We are fighting the machine. We are not fighting the machine anymore. We are outgrowing it. Okay. We've signed the petitions. We've sent emails. We've stood on the streets protesting. And while those acts come from a place of deep heart, we have to be honest with ourselves. At this time, currently at this time, they are quite feeble against the machinery that we stand up against. They are reactive. They are a part of our expression. They do help us feel better, and they do make changes. But as time has gone by, we have slowly watched as the people have lost their power. Simply. It's happening right in front of us. It is happening now. They ask for change from every people that they benefit from our structure. But they ask, what I meant by that is we're asking for change from the people who like to watch us struggle, who like to see us suffer. That's who we're asking to change right now. We're asking permission from the king again. All right. It's about becoming the change. What we are doing today isn't about asking for change. It's about becoming the change by building a way of life that cannot be ignored. The math of the justice is this. The current model that we have is crumbs while the elite gets the loaf. That's what we have.
Come somebody.
Okay.
Is that your roommate or?
When we're looking at the number of When we're looking at the number of,
This is Jean, my other roommate.
Hi,
She can sit over there.
Hi. welcome, come on in. Anywhere you like.
Okay.
Just to let you know, we are live. You're not in the camera's view, but we are live. So the math is the justice is in the math, okay? If we flip the script of, instead of crumbs going to someone who simply owns property or provides equipment, we can do that. Anyone can do that. So when we give the workers more money for the work they do, this is called immediate dignity. No one wants to work at superstores or fast food or any of that. Why? Because they don't get paid, and therefore, as a result, they have no dignity in the job. And as a result, their performance is bad. And as a result, they become homeless. And as a result, so many other things. It is explained in, in some of the studies in the universities that the system itself that we live in creates the crime, that it is the substrate that generates what we are looking at. As far as crime, as far as corruption, it is the environment that cultivates this. So when we were talking about building sensible and community-owned wealth, what we're talking about is that it's kind of like a fortress fund. The community-owned wealth eventually funds their own hospitals, their own legal shields. Why spend our energy on anything else at this point? We need, as far as a soldier is concerned, there are things that we're inclined to do from training. We're inclined to, the minute we rose our hand and said, if we see anything wrong, we're going to stand up against that. Our normal way is to go through armed conflict, which I'm going to tell you right now, I feel is what exactly they want. Exactly what they want. The world is hurting because the old business model is designed to harvest us. In a standard company, you do 100% of the work and keep 5% of the value. In the A.S.C, we flip the table through our 70, 10, 10, 10% split or 7-1-1 split. The worker finally becomes the primary beneficiary of their own life, as it should be. They're giving 90% of their lives, birthdays, Christmases to these companies. This is the catalyst. When people see that joining an organization that does that or a company that does that, it means more money in their pockets and more security for their family. They won't just listen, they'll follow. This is how we turn a crowd of spectators into a coalition of sovereigns, and how we get the most loyal to the status quo to drop their acts of desperation against their fellow human being. Traditional confrontational role, as we've all participated in for the past millennia, maybe 10,000 years, is not working. We keep seeing in our ancient past the same thing rises up over and over and over again. You go back to Rome, the thing that we simply feel that we're so similar to, it was a barbaric time and it got more barbaric over time. We need to build our muscles and not make ourselves a target before we act and start doing things. We stand out by influencing and influential in capabilities with our influence and our capabilities. Not with a loud approach, but with a stealth-like approach. Something in the substrate. Again, we're working with weeds that have nested so deep into our society. We can't simply tell them to change. It's not going to work. We have to come up from underneath how ants do and pluck those weeds from the ground and resubstrate as a natural order does. We have the power to protect people effectively when we come together. Direct confrontation right now is us doing something as a result of our emotions, and that's what we're being pulled to. We are getting called, like how hunters call into a cave with smoke and noise to draw out the prey, and then there it is, we're trapped. That's what we're being told to do with the actions that are being done right now. And this is what they want. A.S.C. is a movement. We're building a sanctuary, not a target. I know the fire in this room. I know the urge to go to the sites and shout at the top of our lungs. And for me, it's so much more as a trained soldier. But we must be wise. High visibility confrontation before we are strong enough makes us a target. It invites the system to crush us before we've even started anything. Our strength lies in our stealth, in being a silent operator. By building our own wealth, our own legal shields, our own medical guilds, we become an influential force that can't be easily swept away. We aren't hiding, we are fortifying. We are building the sanctuary first, so that when the forces that force us to act do happen, we're ready. We do so from a position of unshakable power when we do. This isn't just a club, it's an ecosystem. To the veterans and the warriors here, you are a defense guild when you come together. To the medical professionals, you are our healers. To the legal minds, you are our shields. To our scholars, you are our teachers. To our businesses and entrepreneurs, you are our lifeline. We are creating a world where if a member of this mound is in trouble, they don't have to look to the corruption they no longer trust for answers or permission or for a change. They look to the person sitting right next to them. We are taking the functions of the state and putting them back into the hands of the community. The seed phase is what we're at right now. We're small. Hot dog stands at the very beginning, at the most, guilds, local services, engineers, technology, bringing these skill sets together and turning them into a place where people can start to rely on. It's small at first, just like anything in nature. It starts as a sprout. If freedom is safe within sovereignty, you must understand that patience is also sovereignty. It takes patience to craft anything of any great worth. The world is hurting, but a house built in a storm must have a deep foundation. If we rush, we crumble. Every dollar into the A.S.C. Universal Savings is a brick in our future hospital, our future school, and our future security. I wish I could tell you that by next week the world will be fixed. It won't be. The world is in a state of decay, and the decay takes time to clear. We are in the seed phase if we're starting anything. We are moving away from the temporary relief of reactive acts and moving towards a permanent, sustainable future. Our passion has been our fuel for a long time, but now we're going to use the fuel to build the engine. Let's take all the energy we've used to address old world and invest it into building a new one brick at a time. And let's see. What I wanted to do with this, with the symbology that I've passed around, is show that there's a machine. I'm an engineer, so I study energy, and money is energy. And then when I study energy in the engineering world, I look at what it does and affects. And I don't know how it came to me that perhaps the way we do things has created the symptoms that we all suffer from. All that I know is that working from age 15 to now, I've seen the same thing too. Working hard, working tirelessly, working without asking questions has gotten me only so far. And it's only gotten so much of the world far as well. Not everybody can afford to go get an education to get paid fair. Not everybody has the means to go out there for what they call opportunity. So I said, maybe if we sit down and look at it as an engine, a machine, and change the way it works, change the way people are being paid, use community-owned wealth, community-owned enterprise, and community-owned decisions, that we can actually possibly see the beginning of how to change what's very well nested in. So I brought with me a scepter. It's just a symbol. Part of what the A.S.C is taking this scepter and speaking, but understanding that you now wear the crown. All of you, everybody. This is what we've been avoiding for millennia. No one wants to be a king or queen, really. No one truly does, because it's a massive undertaking. There isn't a single human being that has survived through royalty and come out sane, as far as I'm concerned. But what if people split that up right now with something called direct democracy, not representative democracy? We know how that's turning out. I mean direct democracy. What I say is, let's put money together, build enterprises, fundraise, and once that collects in a bank, we can decide what we're going to do, especially if you have enough in there. Can you imagine if you had as much money as one of the giant tycoons, Tech, I won't even mention his name, what you could do on a philanthropic level? You wouldn't have to do the groundwork that most people have to do. You could almost just do it as easily as they do and use that as influence and power. So with that, I want to pass this scepter to anyone who wants to talk about this that I've presented.
We could just go around the room and say what we feel like. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea. So I'll start from
Sage?
this side. Sage.
I'll be all right for a second.
Long live the king.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pass the torch also.
For it. When I heard Sequoia put this forward, I said, my God, that sounds just like what I've been thinking forever, you know? And so if we could get off on, I mean, it's not new to have collectivism in this country. We have a history of co-ops, you know? This sounds a little different. It sounds like your idea is for the workers to get more back.
More back and more available for a community. So, as you know, philanthropists work, or may not know, dies for two very large reasons. And there's a third, of course. But the first one is that philanthropy work tends to become paternal. They say that they insert resources in a place that they don't understand. The other is that there is a savior complex within these, where they go beyond their own means of keeping it alive, so it crumbles. So what this is yes, it's about paying workers, but it's also about fundraising in a lucrative way. I've been a volunteer for a very long time. There is a point where you become burnt out. And it doesn't make sense after a while when you can't pay your bills and you're doing so much volunteer work. So what I'm saying is, instead of us expecting volunteer work, we turn the enterprise that already exists, capitalism, we turn that into a sustainable project where people actually come together and root for each other's success by being connected. It's like how, you know, a married couple comes together and they join their two accounts. You know, it's kind of funny because no one ever worried about how well I was doing until I did that, right? Joined account. And then as soon as that happened, someone was saying, well, how well are you doing at work? You know, that's what we're doing for each other. It's kind of like a family dynamic of resources. It's bringing a town together and saying, okay, we own this much money or this property. We have X individual who knows a little bit about law, a person who knows about technology, possibly someone who knows about medical. And we form our own lucrative operations that do not follow the old dynamic where the worker just gets a small portion. So the workers are kept dignified. All the while, there's a piece that goes into the coalition at all times, 30% at all times goes into the coalition. And that 30% is split three ways. One goes to a savings, the other one goes into a form of stipend that gets paid out to all its members. And that is, I think, a very important thing because we are looking at the decay of all kinds of benefits, health benefits, medical, Medicaid benefits, educational benefits. It's all just kind of getting cut. So what we're doing is we're funding to make our own benefits so that we are spending less time worrying about what the hot shots are doing out there to us because they now become outgrown. We outgrow them. And of course, you know, like any business owner or any type of lucrative operation, the hardest part is running it. So what we're doing instead, we're still using business, collecting resources, the money or the energy, if we want to call it that, but we're paying for it altogether. So, if we have someone who wants to start a tour business, they're part of us. We're going to pay their overhead. We're going to get them started. We're going to fund them. They're getting paid the major of the operation so that they don't feel like they're just doing it for an organization, not for themselves. It's that natural ambition that people want to get ahead. Why wouldn't they? What if it was possible to do a superstore like we have in town, the coalition way? I did a calculation. 70% to the worker with their $3 million a day would be $10,500 a day per worker of all 200 employees. Okay, that's a lot of money. You know what's going to happen? They may not work the whole month. Why? Because they can go pay their bills and that's it. We're like, well, that's outrageously too much. How come we don't ask that about the ones who own it and do very little? 1% of the, actually, if you look at the cumulative amount that the CEOs and owners of companies do, less than 1% of their time goes into their company. And if you split that between all 200 individuals, it's like a decimal of percent of effort compared to the whole of the people. Yet they make 90%.
It's ridiculous.
It goes into the deep, deep pockets, okay? And then and then we complain about giving people more money because, God, well, with that much money, people can get into trouble. No, with a larger amount of people, you even the odds. You know how you take away a millionaire hot shot? You want to know how you get rid of their mentality, their ego? Throw them in another room full of the people who have the same amount of money. Then they're not. They're guess what? They're just like everyone else. That's what you do. So what I'm saying is, if you create a coalition version of the superstore we had, $10,500 per person per employee, because it's feasible. That's falling into deep pockets right now, times 200, okay, every day, for doing almost nothing. Oh wait, they do something. They come together every month in a board meeting. That's what they do. They come together in a board meeting every month and they talk about how to reduce the benefits and the salary and the overhead cost of their store. God, you know what? Such hard work.
It's pathetic.
But if we flip the script and say, well, maybe everyone in the hospital should be getting paid 70% of what the hospital's making, overhead runs it, whatever percentage it needs to run, and a small percentage to the board of trustees that makes good decisions for the hospital, including the workers themselves. That seems insane, right? We can't do that. No one's ever done. Yes, we do. We do it in the military. When we get shot out there in the middle of nowhere, we get resources. You think we're gonna give the colonel more water than the next person? No, you're gonna get a portion like everyone else. But we come here, we can't do that for each other because we've been taught how to do this over and over again. We have created the climate that grew the unsavory characters that we now deal with. Because when we make businesses, guess what we do? We do the same thing. We don't try something else. We're afraid that if we pay our workers, they might perform better because they have dignity now. Ooh. Or that you may not see the same worker all month long, all day long, because, well, heck, he made enough money to pay his rent and live whatever lifestyle he can or she can. Why is it a crime? And you know what? If I made $10,500 a day for a day's work over at Walmart, you better believe that every time I pass the homeless, I'll be like, hey guys, step on up. I have the money to feed you today. You know what? Better than that, I'm gonna go buy a property. I'm gonna make a real treatment center with all sorts of support, and I mean medical, psychiatric. Why not spread out all the belief systems that we have in the world? Because usually only have one that goes in and tries to help these people. And I contacted the Buddhist monk temple for that last meeting for the homeless. They were afraid to come on down. You know?
Why?
I know. Maybe because they're just not used to that kind of call. But that was disturbing to me. Why, when someone called in the name of people who are needy to a place that teaches people to be more humble and maybe even more giving, would they be afraid to show up? I'll tell you why. Did you see what happened to those monks when they were marching? I'm telling you, if there wasn't a law, they would have been slaughtered right where they were. Guaranteed.
May I have a second?
Yeah.
Somebody turn off that coffee pot inside?
I'm pretty sure I turned it on, but
Yeah, turn it on. Yeah, Gene, could you turn it off and we'll wait?
So,
Just the coffee pot. Hold
what
on.
I'm understanding is
Josh, could you
that,
hold on one bit until Gene comes back?
oh, sure.
Because it's perked a lot.
I might have turned it up instead of off.
There's another pot that's keeping.
Oh,
it warm.
another one. Okay.
Let me see
Thank
if
you.
I can understand that.
So from what I understand of what we can do is, you can do what we can do, and what other people can do, they can do. We work together to do that. So in that regard, I have things I can offer. I have my law license. I have the ability to draft contracts, settle disputes, arbitrate. I also have a property I'm buying in town, a commercial property that I have my Jam Space LLC, which is a retail aspect for music services and lessons. I have my nonprofit, the Sanctuary Arts Alliance, that is basically the same thing for my LLC, but more geared towards the people. I have my goals and ambitions. I can't do everything, but I have been trying to do it for the past few months. And I think by working together with everybody's services, whatever they can do, whatever they can add into it, it can grow. And I, in return, will offer whatever services I can do. I don't want to do something I can't do. I want to work with somebody that can do it. That way we can build something up together, as opposed to just working absent with each other. We can just make something bigger than what it can be. I think our ambitions are based upon our dreams and desires. And really, in this world, we can't do that without working together. But most of us try anyway, and we build what we can. And I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to work together with anybody, with anything else, anything somebody else can do. Just ask. If you want to contribute, I can contribute for what you need in my capacities. And that's how I think we should be able to work together.
That's beautiful, Josh.
That's great.
That's my resource,
Well, that's quite a bit.
my human resource.
I might add a little bit to that. I went to Josh's,
You got these two here.
I went to Josh's location and, he had an electric guitar that needed to be fixed. I'm an electrical engineer. He has a music store. Beautiful music store, by the way. And my guitar was broken, needed a bridge. I haven't played that as my father built it for me a long time ago. It's sentimental. He fixed that for me. That is the coalition in it right there. That's the coalition right there. It's already, that's an example of just a very minimalistic benefit that a group of skilled or even people learning can contribute. You know, as a college professor for 4 years, the one thing I understood at the very end of my stay teaching was that there was something completely wrong with the way it was done. It wasn't affordable. Most people couldn't connect the dots of why they had to know all this math or anything like that. And of course, my program was supposed to follow a cookie cutter method, whereas the students knew exactly what they wanted to learn. So, you know, as a teacher, another thing that I can offer, technical classes. There's a number of people that are suffering from the virus, from the scamware. There's relief to be had out there, and it may be something small for now, but there are plenty of people out there looking for a way to use their skills, their ability to heal people, or their ability to rescue people. I know 10 good soldiers right now that don't know what to do with themselves. They would be great as a security guild. They go out there and get contracted for whatever security thing they need. Maybe they're just a watch to make sure people get a little too saucy over at a wedding. Or maybe there's something more serious. Maybe there's a politician coming in town. Again, they get paid 70%. There's a 30% fundraising for the entire organization. Anything they need, car, vests, clothing, the coalition provides. It's shared wealth, shared enterprise. It's alternative. It is radical. It's very different. This is what it should look like, the world. An even distribution of resources. Now I started with, this 7-11 thing because, we have 10 fingers. And if I earn $10 today in the name of the coalition, here goes $3 to be used by the coalition. I take this home. Here's the incentive for people. People are naturally driven to do the best they can for their families, for themselves. And yes, humans are very needy. Let's say it greedy, okay? Is there a way to integrate greed back into the solution of the problem? Or in other words, ambition. What they really want, what I think a lot of people really want, is to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And maybe some of the unsavory characters that we're dealing with went out there so far as to have everything that they can possibly have and still not find anything, and therefore are causing the suffering that they're causing because there's still something missing. They are never going to buy anyone's respect. Ever. But they can sure earn it. Now would be the time. I'm not going to wait for them. I'm not waiting. I think just this small amount of people right here can actually do something pretty magical together with all of the knowledges that they have. Oh, I'm sorry. Here I go rambling on. Ralph, did you want to say something?
No, you just handed me the baton.
Oh, I saw that.
No,
I saw that.
I do have something to say.
Okay.
I don't really know how a person like myself could be of a great benefit to this organization, but I feel that I have a lot of resource. I've got a nice piece of property out here south of town that I inherited. And right now I'm raising milk goats on it. I retired from milking and my goats are damn glad. But yeah, over about 30 years of time, I put together 280 some hours of college credits,
No.
most of it in history and art and politics. And I've been chairman of the county commission of the county, what is it?
Council?
The
County
Planning
Commissioners?
and Zoning
Oh,
Commission
Planning and Zoning.
for San Miguel County, and politically ousted quickly. I've always fought for the underdog. I believe very strongly that I experience it. The more you give and the more you offer and the more available you are to share yourself, the more you have to offer and the more you get back. I give away, and next thing I know, I've got more of something I can't handle because there's just too much of it.
Right.
You know, and it's I'm vice president of the Mora Land Grant. And 2 years ago, when the governor signed House Bill 268, we just dissolved. We disbanded, we melted into the nowhere because we could not find an attorney that would defend the United States Constitution and defend us against or signing us, making us political subdivisions of the state. By the Constitution, they have this thing called the Supremacy Clause. And the Supremacy Clause says that no one may go behind Congress to alter a land grant in any way, shape, or form. And we couldn't find anybody to defend that. So 2 years later, I'm watching the land grants being sold off, and subdivided and commercialized, and these are things that were given to us and our progeny for ever and ever, and it never was supposed to be touched, and here it is being raped and shattered, and it's pretty hard to live with. So I'm constantly looking for resources and anything that I can do to help anybody. You probably have. You need a load of rock. I've got rock.
You know, Rob?
I've got sandstone, flagstone. I've got building
That's-
block. I've got
Wow.
probably one of the largest hoards of moss rock in the area because everybody sold it off and I haven't. And but yeah, I've got things that I can offer.
Actually, Ralph, you brought up the most valid question I think that would resonate with the presentation of this whole thing. Now, I'm not a great presenter, but you know, I think that the question is, what could I contribute, or how much time am I going to have to put into this? And I want us to remember that just like how we got together here, there was something for you guys to drink, something to eat. It's a potluck, okay? A very minimal even is good enough. That's what the coalition is. You ever take a cookie crumb to an ant pile, they will appreciate it, I promise you. Okay? Even just showing up to a meeting, saying what you just said is enough. And it's a contribution. Just being here, that is the coalition growing right there.
Something I forgot to mention. I'm hoping this summer to get a well drilled up in a garden area that I have. I have a fenced off garden. It's 100 feet by 100 feet. It's laced with all kinds of amenities. It'll grow anything, but I need water right on spot. And then I would like to encourage the community to come out. In order to keep my land from being snagged up, I think I'm going to turn it into a church and call it the Church of Every Day.
That's cool.
Honestly, you know, with my busy engineering schedule, I had to think about people who are like me or worse. How could they be part of this? And the answer is That's why there are 3 different types of membership in it. There's the inactive membership where you just show up whenever you want. There's active membership where people put in, yearly dues and vote. That's the minimum. And then there's the guilds. Engineering guild, law guild, medical guild, whatever guilds that we create. Farming guild, probably the most important. What is it that people really need at the end of the day? They gotta eat. They gotta live somewhere. They gotta be sheltered. You just mentioned rock, water, land. And if we owned employed 10 people or 20 people, farmers, ranchers, to go and work that land, produce food, bring it to a coalition-run market where everyone who brings something, they just get a split of the whole thing. That's extreme coalition, or just the classic way they bring their food together, a place to sell it. These are resources. These are exactly what we're not utilizing, and we're not utilizing them, and we're not manufacturing anything, is because there's groups out there who have figured out how to pay others so much less than they can pay us. And therefore, no one's working the land, producing anything or anything else. It's almost like they got us, right? Well, have you ever heard of cottage industry? Maybe. Cottage industry is the same sort of concept of using as many work tables as available across an entire city to produce something that people need to create a product that can be sold. I'll just use an example. People knitting washcloths or Afghan rugs. Those all things have value. If you don't think blankets had value, just travel 300 years back into the past in this very land. And by the way, there was no hardware store to make windows and doors. So what do you think you put? A blanket, Navajo blanket. It was very valuable. So yeah, minimal or maximum, it's a potluck. Everyone brings a little bit. If everyone brought a little bit to that table, we would probably have more than we can eat. And by the way, with all the leftovers and all that, I bet you there's someone hungry. That's how the coalition works. It's taking a very little bit from everybody, creating this big old thing, filling everyone's tummies, and saying, oh crap, we have too much. That's good. Now we can do something with that. So if the coalition threw together a Thanksgiving dinner somewhere as a welcome members or whatever, there's going to be leftovers. And how many homeless people do we count in this city? How many hungry people in the world? That's the whole point. It's taking resources, owning them as a community, not letting one person control it all, and deciding, okay, what do we want to do with all this stuff? What do we want to do? That's the magic. It's called tribal community. It's been around we forgot how to do it because, we gave a person a scepter, a crown, and said, okay, make the decisions for me. It's too much for me to handle. Yes, by yourself it is. But a large group, not so much, actually.
Is there something in mind for the first thing we could do?
Sure. So we need to, grow a presence, maybe grow more members. The first thing we should probably do is decide when we're going to meet again, before we leave. I have this right here. It's a little something that I printed out. It's scannable by phone. It's a video to explain the coalition a little bit better. It helps people go back and say, okay, what is this thing? And it's kind of hard. It was hard. It took me 2 years to refine it, but it had been in my mind for years before that. Something was bugging me about how we live. So it took me a while to understand this. But then when I looked at it, it's simply our way of doing economics. It's the distribution thing, and we just choose to keep on doing it. That's it, because we feel we don't have the option. I've seen people beat this. Actually, my grandfather told me the story about how an immigrant family beat this. They came from the Orient. They lived in a very, very poor neighborhood out in Douglas, Arizona. Okay, the poorest neighborhood there. My grandfather was a Native American. And they called him over to go and help fix their car because they bought a beater, busted up car. And he was a mechanic. He enters into their house, and the room was covered in cots. This was about the size of the house right here. Cots everywhere. And he was like, "What are you guys doing?" I was like, "Oh, we all live together to help each other." My grandfather was like, "You guys are insane." And a year later, they bought a rundown restaurant, fixed it up, became the first Chinese restaurant there. Okay? And 2 years later, a nail salon, and then a laundromat. Sounds cliche, doesn't it? I'll tell you what that phenomenon is. Someone explained it to me. I was like, and he was like, "You guys are all rich now, and you guys are going to Stanford?" Yes, because they got their money together, and as a family, as a group, decided the next course of action. And then they helped each other, right? Someone explained to me why they do that and Americans don't. We're natural born Americans, including Native Americans. Because we were taught to fend for ourselves, put a white fence around our house, and you're all by yourself. You come up with your own income and you raise your own family. Don't do things the way the tribes did it in the past. Don't do that. Well, in China or the Orient, wherever they were from, they couldn't do anything. So they came here and they're like, "We're allowed to do that?" So someone said it was like the dam effect that opened up. The water just rushed out. So right now, I think everyone's still wealthy in that family. That's kind of the coalition right there. And so what I'm saying is that we got to start thinking that way, that way right there. We are taught to live it and do it all on our own. But if I take $100 out of my pocket, which I think maybe that's the dues that we'll start with maybe a couple years from now, I don't know. You guys are going to decide when we want to start collecting dues. I'm not in charge. The coalition's in charge. I put $100 in here. Someone else does the same. Now there's 200, 300, 400, 500. Okay, now we have a number. Well, someone in the group says, "Well, I don't have $100. I can't afford that." Okay. Coalition's going to go buy a snow cone machine, send that person out there, pay them 70% to sit there all day long selling snow cones. They're making money because they were poor. We just lifted a poor person out of the gutter. Okay. Coalition just raised 30% out of that amount. Let's say they pulled in $600 that day. Okay, that person's pretty happy. It's not just volunteer work. Okay, that person never wants to do it again. They go home with probably was like 400, 500 some odd dollars. Okay, the coalition starts putting their money together and their decisions together. They're thinking together. You're thinking like a tribe, like a family. Okay, so what are we going to do next time? Well, in between then and now is a time for reflection and thought. Maybe you have a pool of friends, maybe you don't. Start talking about it. By talking about it, you're teaching yourself about it. Think about the very minimal that you could bring. We don't have to do anything right now. We do need to continue getting together. That's my rant there.
I would like to have a brainstorm on an idea. I'm thinking,
Okay,
something that contributes our qualities together, and I'm thinking a music festival,
music festival.
which would allow me to use all my gear and equipment and to bring it out there and to use it. We could do a battle of the bands to bring the community together, like bring people to do stuff. You could do electrical engineering to make sure that all the stage works. We could use their land. We could build a stage if somebody has some carpentry skills. We could use a medical unit in case there's issues. I'm just saying.
We're assuming with the closing. I'm just using it as an example.
And this is just from what I've heard everybody say. If anybody has a skill, they could volunteer to it. We could actually make a fund to build it up, and then we could charge tickets, and we can use that money to build it even further up in the future. This is just one thought, We don't have to choose it because it will have to be a community choice, but something to think about.
I think it's a great idea. Everybody wants music here.
Mhm.
We never have enough music.
For sure. And if we could just make a community-based festival without having to rely on the city or anybody in power, and just do it ourselves, and we can entice more people to come and do it. We could have small get-togethers, maybe like a small battle of the bands or like a trivia night or something, just to get people aware of what we're trying to do, and then we can resource the potential of people's services.
So talking about open pasture land now, how are you gonna get your electricity to it?
That would be his job.
Usually you run generators.
Generators, solar power, but
I will do what I can do.
Generators.
You can do if these kinds of questions, we can discuss them, and then we try to find solutions by finding the right person for it.
That's exactly what the coalition is.
There's a lot of local bands too. I mean,
I'm sure they would love to have a huge thing like that. And we could find some spaces. Even if your land doesn't work out, you could contribute in other ways using your stones to create areas like blocking them off. It's something that we could all work together to do with our own wood stock.
Did I see that? There we go. Yeah, I think I think the biggest thing we can do is push for higher taxation and a higher minimum, higher pay rate at all the major corporations. Doesn't matter whether it's Lowe's or McDonald's or Walmart, as a group, and then we can take that money and reinvest it not just into your nonprofit, but into the various nonprofits around town and various community organizations. That's probably going to be a pretty hard thing to get across to the city, as I'm sure a lot of the people that in the mayor's office and the county some might profit from it or don't see it as a threat to the welfare of the county and the welfare of the people. But if they're taking so much from us, then they have to be giving back more. You know, the schools are, a lot of the schools are pretty run down. They're struggling. They don't have enough resources. You know, a lot of the hospital is pretty bad shape. It's pretty in shambles. You know, not to really knock on it that hard, because the hospital's not doing too good. You know, there's that funding could be used for you know, treating the symptoms of what is, you know, capitalism basically running too far. All the small businesses downtown are struggling. They don't have the resources they need. They wouldn't be taxed at all. They would, you know, the proposed tax would only be to major corporations that are owned by people out of state, out of the country. You know, Walmart, McDonald's. You know, companies that have large shareholders and things like that. So and increase the minimum wage for the employees, because you know, if you work at McDonald's for 10, 20 years and then they cut you loose for whatever reason, or decide to relocate or hire somebody younger and more able, and you have no benefits, you have nothing to go with, you're struggling to get by. This whole town is kind of suffering from that, you know, and I feel like that would also drive people more into the local businesses and things like that. You know, there'd be more money available for local businesses, startup funds for local businesses, appropriations. I mean, you know, if you gave like you gave every employee at Walmart a $20 an hour raise, you got 200 employees, but still only be like a couple of days worth of profit out of the whole year for them. It's not something they can't manage. You know, even a 5% tax on them would be massive. A 3% tax would be a massive income and boon to the community, to the roads, to the schools, to the even to the DA's office. You know, to everything. Everything here would have a lot more resources available. You know, and that would make things a lot more available for the people. So that's my best idea. You know.
Very good, very
Yeah,
good.
I like the music festival a lot too, but yeah.
I'm Jean. What I'm hearing is Chamber of Commerce presence,
Yeah.
Town Council presence, fair trade and style, fair trade industry and style, some knowledge of joint venture,
Yes.
shared services model, and enterprise in nature, including enterprise platforms. So I can be of assistance with lines of service. I mean, defining lines of service within and lines of service without.
Okay.
My background is IT.
Okay.
Primarily, but some measure of when you're defining your lines of service within that you can provide to each other, and then your lines of service from a public facing model, you would need some form of minimum in status, the ability to contribute versus ability to serve. Because the ability to, I mean, that's what we're going to run into is the inability to contribute, but the ability to serve, myself included.
Gotcha.
So, and then brainstorming session with, strengths and weaknesses and what we can contribute right off the bat as far as skills. So that's just a brief, little bit of thought there. I like the idea of, I mean, it sounds a bit, I mean, an event is the right thing to do, an awareness. And then the ability to monetarily join Chamber of Commerce, which just always charges a fee. But in so doing, you have your presence as a legal entity. And then see what the reaction is to at least listening in on city council. And the town council is a bit different from city council. But at least understanding the financial models that are at work within New Mexico that are working in those that are not. And that may, that takes, you don't necessarily have to have a negative presence, but you can have an informed presence all the way up to the DA's office.
Right.
And those that are running for office. So there's a model, to start with, and then to refine, and then to say, okay, what's the reality in the next 6 months, based on season, tourism, and so forth. Is the point in this area, in this region, would be how does New Mexico suffer? What are its strengths and weaknesses? Where is it suffering? Where is it prospering? And what are other than all the pamphlets you see everywhere for the Land of Enchantment, what do you not see? You can boost morale, but you can boost awareness. Instead of New Mexico being, the poorest state in the United States, with the most amount of unemployed and the most amount on food stamps, what is it underneath? And make sure that's in your messaging to say, okay, here's the beauty of this. And also the Native American, the Native heritage is of course important, because this is the unanswered question all the time.
Sure.
And in other words, what are the tribes here? Who are you? How did this come to be? What, how did for example, how did Las Vegas, New Mexico, how did it start? So it's more of a PR, a brainstorming, lines of service, and then a model. And it can be you can use the concept of the general store. Even if you don't necessarily put together a general store, you can use the concept of it and say, well, what kind of goods and services are, who's out there making things that would be interested in contributing and selling and bringing their talent and their art to bear. So it's event and art and music, and say, okay, you have stores here that didn't make it off and on over the years, but that doesn't mean they can't be online. But it is to some degree similar to a general store in model, with a variety of interests participating, and it just you start with something, a little bit of a reality check, and keep moving forward, and that's what's coming to mind.
Yeah. So I figured make these images so that we kind of see a comparison. This is Walmart right now. Okay? Walmart right now has their mass distribution leaving the town. This little sliver, this little gray sliver right here, this is what the workers here get. These are actual numbers. This little piece up in the top, this little tiny portion, of course you have to make it bigger here to show what it is. That's the cost to operate. Okay, not very much actually. This represents maybe a coalition buying a building, an empty building, like that thrifting angle maybe. And inside it, bringing in products of all sorts. Maybe something that people wholesale from online, maybe something they produce. Groceries, made by farmers, eggs, milk, meat, all that good stuff. There was once an Indian market my dad went to where they were struggling with trying to get people to go. So they came up with this really strange idea. They said, how about this, guys? Bring your art. We're going to do the checkout for everybody. We're going to split all of the ventures between all the artists. And the reason why they did that is because the year before that, not enough artists wanted to go because they're like, well, I didn't do so well last time. Not a lot of people wanted to show up to go to this place because there's only 5 artists who did well. So what they did is they said, come in for free. Come and bring your products for free. We're going to sell them. You make the price, you run the ticket, you make the ticket, they go and check out in the front. And then they split the money, all the artists that were there. So think about that in a grocery store venture. We have plenty of people growing product out here. We have a farmer's market. An empty building, they can go bring their stuff. As a big group, this is extreme coalition practice. They're not even worried about checkout and all that stuff. They're just selling their stuff, talking about their fruit, how they grew it, whatever they want to do. Maybe they brought in some paintings. Maybe they brought in some furniture. It's a store, like a flea market. So the coalition owns this building. They can do whatever they want with it, but in general, they run it as a market. The people who come and sell their stuff, basically kind of like the workers in the store here, they're running it. That's where the store concept came from. It came from the bazaar, an indoor bazaar. Walmart is an indoor bazaar ran by the corporation. Except that these guys are going to do better because, they are going to actually get paid their worth and their time. The people who are checking out are getting a split too. The whole thing is being run. If there's security, they're getting paid a big split. They make this large chunk of money of organic food. People love organic food. They love homemade products. They're going to get a lot of money. That's what happened at that Indian market, by the way. Everyone went home. Some of the most impoverished Native Americans traveled all the way from north, South Dakota, Pine Ridge Reservation, brought their art and went home with thousands of dollars. They never made that much. Okay? And, well, they want to do that like that again. Except that only, there's a few artists like, no, I contributed everything to everyone. But then the next time they went, they didn't sell so well. And they were uplifted. It's kind of like that. What happens in a supermarket run like the way the coalition runs it, where 70% goes to the workers, well, they're making a lot of money, and they have friends over here saying, hey, come on over here, get paid more. And all of a sudden, this talent tree starts flowing this way. This guy is going to wonder what the heck's going on because he can't hire anyone. Because these are making, all the workers are going here for something. They show up and they're like, oh, they're paying them more. So they try to double their wage. Helps a little. Triple, because guess what? They have plenty of room. They've got plenty of room to pay them more. We did a 10%. If they just gave them 10% out of their $3 million a day, they would go home with $1,500 a day. Just 10%. Okay?
IRS gonna love it.
Oh yeah, they'll love it. What we're trying to do is make this obsolete and make people want to do this better. That's the model. That's this model right here.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So from what I'm hearing now is that we could use my store per se to just sell local art.
Sure.
And we can have people there talk about what the art means. That way we can build up stories
Mhm.
of the individual peoples and allow them to showcase their culture.
Yes.
And by selling their art as a collective as opposed to the individual, it all goes into the general fund, which will be distributed amongst all the people at 70%, with the other amounts being determined by a board review, essentially.
Certainly.
So
It's a machine.
the way we started, I understand the principles behind it. I'm willing to do whatever I can. I can donate. I could use my time, my services. I just need a clear-cut plan. Philosophy is great and all, but without an understanding of what we're doing and how we're going to do it,
Yes.
everything will fall apart.
Of
Because
course.
we all can have high hopes and talk about things getting done,
Yeah.
but if we don't commit to it, if we don't have consistent changes over time and building upon it, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
So I propose that we all think upon ways and present ways at the next meeting,
Yes.
and actually like have at least a bullet point cut out of what we can do, or we can expand the goals from there. That way we can build, as you said, this is something we're going to do together, not necessarily rely on the city government or federal government. This is a community operation, and we're going to be stealthy.
That's
So
correct.
we don't need to necessarily let everybody else know what we're doing, but if we all work together and make it like really personal as opposed to political, we can actually maybe entice some people that feel the same way to join.
I was just gonna say real quick, thank you so much. I was gonna say, I have to pretty much copy and paste what you just said. That we start off with this great light bulb ideas, but the idea of keeping on it and then brainstorming and just getting out of our chairs, so to speak, and taking action on what we want to do with the passion of music, I think that's phenomenal.
Yes.
I think we miss music here in town. They talk about security and it wasn't dangerous, but even little babies love music, you know. So I would love to get on that idea. I enjoy advertisement, a little bit of a shelter idea. My thing is cosmetology, and the hair braids, dreads.
There we go.
It's something I think is exciting. It's almost going through a famine, this town, and we need as far as music. a chance to
If you have
get together.
cosmetology, we could do fashion shows and stuff too, like all along with it. Or you could dress the band members up in like old lady style.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's like endless. My brother, I have a collection of a few hundred albums for those like in the DJ, those who can DJ, and I have congos now too that I inherited. It's not the easiest thing in the world to play, but yeah, it's kind of fun. So I hope we can all get together soon. Talk about participation, membership, joining, and just start brainstorming.
And remember,
Agreed.
there's going to be some people who want to do it like this in your buildings. When you guys own buildings, A.S.C, they're going to want to do it like this, and that's okay. We're just going to charge them a fee, like a flea market does. They can sell all by themselves. Because one of the things that is in the video that I said, we honor everyone's sovereignty, even the sovereignty to do their own thing. Or the less lucrative, that's their business. What we want to do is show that this exists, and maybe as it starts to really work out for people, maybe what we can use is everyone's ambition to lift everyone else up too. That's the machine. That's the new machine. So with that, I don't know if I don't know how long. What are we on time here? We're almost 2 hours in. I figured that what I'm going to be doing for a little while is showing you how this method works. And at some point, I'm probably going to speak a lot less because I think it'll grow on its own. I think it'll build its own foundation. I think it'll evolve into something that actually works. It'll streamline itself, in other words, through time. because we're going to use direct democracy. No one in the big business world is going to like this. They're not going to like it. The government might be like, who are these guys? And then we do something nice for the community, like a music festival, or maybe we donated some money to a charitable thing over there. Oh, that's nice. So we don't want them to see us as a problem, because we're not trying to be. We're trying to be a solution. We're trying to get people to change what's in their mind about how to work with each other. The point is that we all got taught to be selfish. We did, didn't we?
Not always.
Not all, but I mean the average atmosphere.
That's true. It's true. Because I saw it in California. Like you said, the people from Vietnam and those people came to California. They all had one house. I mean, all of them. And they put their money together in one house. And then, pretty soon there's a community of houses that they all got into. So I've seen it done. And I think the music festival is good. We need to bring younger kids. I have a grandson that keeps complaining that we have nothing but New Mexico music over here. He says, why don't they bring in this kind of music or that kind of music? Maybe we can. I'll ask him, well, do you know anybody that would
really
contribute that kind of music and bring younger people in, because this town needs the young people. And like I tell them, we're all gonna die, and the poor kids have nothing to do here. He's working with a group that's trying to get what is it, where they get the skateboard and go,
Skateboard.
yeah,
We
build a
take,
new one, and for the kids, because the guy believes that the kids should have something to do. So that's kind of a start. I'll ask him, well, do you know anybody that could that plays music, or somebody that could, if we could get it, young people to start contributing themselves, because that gives them a better view of themselves too, if they volunteer. Recently, he's going to Gallina's firehouse over there and scraping and patching and whatnot. Then he started with another guy that he worked with, and then the other guy said, well, we're going to get paid. He says, this is volunteer. The guy quit, so he's by himself over there scraping the thing and patching it up and whatnot. So where's everybody at?
yeah. I mean, it's as simple as getting people to think about how their prosperity relies on this prosperity of another person. Does that exist? Nature says yes. Bees do it, ants do it. There's so many creatures that live in a community, and they feed each other. But we say that it's not possible with humans because we're greedy. Okay, can we use that ambition as part of the solution? Sure.
I mean, that's basically how I've been living my life for like the past 2 years. I've been building the place, a community hub for musicians basically to come, with the ambition that I create workshops and spaces for volunteers to come and do lessons for the kids like, on a weekly basis, like all the different varieties of like the lessons and workshops to be like build a band together, go on tour, record songs, repair stuff. That's what I had when I was a kid, and I grew up in Boston. And that business called Zoomix is now skyrocketed to like huge status in that area. And I just want the kids here to see what I had when I was a kid. So I've just been applying the philosophy of my old nonprofit.
That's great, Josh.
And I live under the philosophy that if you build it, they will come. Because I'm not the one that advertises. I just kind of do it. I wait for people to come and say, hey, I see the idea you're doing, let me help out. So it's going to work. Yeah. And I contribute my own funds to it because I love music. It's my hobby, my passion, but it's not my job. And that way I keep it as a source of happiness as opposed to feeling like an obligation. But I like the process of building up a building. I'm actually going to buy it pretty soon with a owner finance system. But I really don't want to use it just for myself. I want the community to be able to come and build it up. And that way, I think through this, we could potentially all buy it together. That's
That'd be great.
an idea for what can happen. But if not, I'm fine just doing it myself. And that's where my selfish nature comes into it. I follow my own ambitions and do what I want. But by proxy, people can come in and join. And I'm all for it.
That's great.
That's how I.
Well, you've got the Kickstart music there, Kickstart, the coffee shop Kickstart in Bridge Street.
Yeah, I go play jazz there every now and then.
Yeah, they have people coming like crazy.
My image is more of like a youth center. It's essentially a place where musicians can learn and grow and develop their craft. That's my personal
And we
want.
need that.
But it can be expanded to arts of all variety. It can be culinary, it could be trades,
Office hoteling.
Yeah. Hey,
What is that? Steve?
office hoteling.
The
I was thinking like
hoteling
capsule
concept.
hotels actually
Yeah.
might be a good way to alleviate the homeless problem.
Yeah.
Because if I remember what George Lyon said, parasitic. I don't know if he was talking about the people, but the process and the system. Where if you give somebody 24-hour residency, they won't have to feel like they have to do anything. But if we give them a cheap alternative of place to stay, like
He was
capsule
just-
hotel in Japan is like
He was
small
talking
little-
about the process.
Yeah, it was definitely the process, but I
Yeah,
think
he
people
wasn't talking about
misunderstood that.
individuals.
everybody's being treated like a parasite right now. Everybody. That's what's going on.
If we give people something to look forward to,
Maybe one of those homeless people show up to our market and bring something that they carved while they were out there. Something.
and if they just want to like be able to contribute by building things,
Or
anything,
anything.
literally anything that can help build up what we want to do as a collective.
Yeah.
It could be any kind of menial labor. It could be some kind of thought they can do. They can go pass out flyers, just little small things that everybody can take a part in.
Put that snow cone machine inside that, that building, or a cotton candy machine. No one wants to run it that day. Someone walks in, they're just wondering, hey, you want to make some money?
I was thinking like if we
That's
could,
great.
if
No
we could come up
interview.
with an idea of something we
Let's
can
go.
do,
That's
we
great.
could branch it out into little flyers of specific acts, specific services that they can do. We can just like make a deal with essentially like you do this service, you get paid in this much, or you get this kind of property. We can trade, barter. This town likes to barter. I like to barter, but we can use our objects and stuff to pay for services, and that can entice people to come in. We could use prizes. We can play games like trivia nights or something just to get people awareness. I don't know, brainstorming. But, just community events
great.
is what I really want to do.
That'd be a good model for getting rid of homelessness. you know?
Yes. This
I see
interview
it that way.
process,
Mhm.
the first they say they want workers, and then they put them through hell with all these credentials and all that, and the person is probably 10 times more capable of performing the menial tasks they're asking for in the first place.
Right.
Ridiculous.
We would just do independent contracting.
Why
So
not?
you get paid for your services, and the 30% will go towards the coalition.
The American dollar bill has lost 97% of its value since its conception, meaning it's only 3% off of being worthless. Okay?
That's crazy.
What hasn't changed in value is our time. It's the only thing we actually truly own while we're here temporarily, and we don't get back ever. And when we give all of it to the growth of the pompous parade, and then they treat us like dirt, kick us around. We complain about it and tell them, you stop that.
Right.
I was a victim of bullying once when I was a kid. There's only one way to deal with them, and that is to not deal with them.
I think a good indicator of success would be if we say get Walmart to raise their wages based upon our actions.
Oh yeah.
Have you guys got for the major corporations and see that to me that the reason I think that's such a good idea is because it's going to draw the workers in. Is what he wants to build a coalition of workers. you know.
And then with that kind of influence, when we
But-
see it, we can actually start
Yeah.
maybe convincing the
motivates
council to
the
give us
workers,
more
you
grant
know.
funding.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we need to start small in order to really do something.
Yeah.
If we have too grand ambition, we'll
Yeah.
be crushed underneath it.
I mean, I would say too, you got to have a standard for, you know, every big business has to have a higher rate of pay or a higher tax. Not obviously not a tax on the customers.
Yes, but we can't do anything about that.
Raising
directly.
local sales
It needs to
tax
be
is
indirect.
yeah.
And
is
if we
gonna
see
be
it
very
happening
popular.
indirectly, that's an
Yeah.
indicator of success.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, if we could get like a $5, $10 an hour wage hike for everybody that works at any of those businesses, I mean,
That's
that'd be a huge
I think
deal.
it would be a collateral effect of what we do.
Yeah.
And that would be an indicator that we see
Yeah.
what we're doing is a success.
Or a tax too. I mean,
Over time.
And that would have a quality of life impact on everybody in the community if we had a higher tax for those people, you know. And
you have to see it work in
Yeah.
action to believe it. You have to know how it works. You have to know how it doesn't work. All I know is that if you hit these guys where it hurts,
Oh, I'd love to do that.
and that is the weapon as well.
Mm-hmm.
That is the machine that takes the smoggy, nasty thing that's running right now, that's messing us all up, throw that thing out, put something more elegant. I mean, Star Trek elegant. I mean, hovering and floating, flying above and beyond it. Confront them, they're just going to laugh at you and say, we're not going to pay you more. Fly above them. They have nothing to say, do they? Where's their workers now? What you mean that all 200 of those employees were making it happen? I'll bet you they were. And now what are you going to do? How high are you going to take your wage? Well, at some point, they're going to have to almost match what we're doing if they want to. They became a coalition, didn't they? Oops. Now they have to pay their workers 70% for doing zero in their operation. They just became a coalition. Oops. Who knows? They might start showing up to the meetings like, can you guys stop
They
it?
keep spreading the lie that, oh, they don't want to work. They don't want to work. And that's all I hear. And I said, that's bullshit. Okay?
They don't want to work
It
for
really
pennies is what it is.
is. Yeah, if you pay them, they work.
I can just imagine it. Big superstore CEOs out there with signs. Stop the A.S.C. They're breaking our system. They're paying the workers too much. Stop them now. That's what we.
You won't see that in person, you see that online as bonds.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just funny to imagine. But yes, we have to start small. We have to see it work to believe it works. I mean, I'm an engineer. I don't even think the videos that I helped generate explain it well enough. You guys are the populace. The populace is out there. They're going to be like, how does this work? And somewhere along the line, here's going to be this individual or group saying, wait a minute, your videos suck. And I'm going to be like, yes, fix it. Fix it, make it better. And then one watch, people are like, okay, I understand how this works. That's where that, and like how these guys were saying, when Taco Bell, or oops, I said a corporate name, didn't I? When a fast food chain or one of the other places start having to raise their wage to keep up with a different model of pay without spilling blood and changing the world, just like that. Just by owning, as a community, the wealth and the property and deciding what you're going to do with it, just like that. Will there be problems? Oh yeah, we're talking humans here. But that's why there's a large group of people to sort it out. And at some point, me operating as a teacher, I get to shut up, sit down, and listen to other people's ideals at some point. I look forward to that. I don't think there should be leaders. Anyhow,
So, project,
what we got?
for next meeting, are we gonna do this again?
I think we should. I think we should do it in a couple of weeks and invite the people that probably forgot about it. That's what I think.
Sounds
Yeah, I
good.
did 2 weeks.
I
at
think
the
they forgot
latest.
about it.
Yeah.
Should
I think
we
we have to-
advertise it better than just having an email stream?
Probably.
I'm not good at advertising, so I do not volunteer for that job. But I think it's a great idea to do that.
Yeah.
Who would? Anyone know?
Well, she said that, what was her name, Allison?
Who, Elena?
Elena. she said that she was good at advertising. She would want to do something about it.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
regardless, I think we should all come up with propositions.
I was the one who really organized the homeless thing.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Oh, excellent. So we just let you do it. You got the influence to get people.
No,
Or-
I'd like help.
Maybe think about it for our next group. I'm not expecting us to, again, save this world by tomorrow,
But
but
yeah, I talked to the people at Samaritan, they don't have the money.
It's not about money. It's about your body, your mind.
No, they don't have the money to keep it open.
Oh,
You wanna
Yeah.
go to your place
yeah, we
next
can,
meeting?
we can do it at my spot.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
do we
let's
have
do it at
a,
your place.
do we have a date that works for everybody?
So
Calendar?
Maybe
I have a calendar somewhere.
Where is your place?
608 Douglas Ave.
they need volunteers for the thrift store. Do you guys have any time to contribute for the Samaritan House?
The thrift store?
They need volunteers for the thrift store because they don't have enough volunteers to keep the thrift store open. If they don't have the thrift store
really?
open, they don't have the funds to
Oh, okay.
open the shelter. So
My address is on there.
Oh, okay. So do we agree that we should be in 2 weeks on a Sunday afternoon? I think Sunday's a good time.
Sunday works for me.
Works for you?
Sunday works?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
So 2 weeks from now, Sunday,
And you have the list of the people that you first contacted, right?
yeah, I can send it out again. That's not a problem.
Okay.
So not this coming Sunday, so Saturday.
What date is that?
Let's see here. So today, so that'd be the 26th.
26?
We'll do like a brainstorm proposal seminar just to get everybody's thoughts out. It's like we'll just think on them, and then maybe once we get the idea of who's in the coalition, we can start voting.
Yeah, that's a good
And
one.
then when we have an idea, after that, we start building upon it with every single building block that is necessary to make it happen. And we just build one piece at a time. And those labor services can be put out as like a sign, like we need somebody to build a foundation. And we'll put like the reward for doing it. And we can all work together to get the resources, so they don't have to like provide the resources, but the coalition provides the resources or the bricks to do it. But we don't have the labor. That's what we will hire somebody to do. And then they'll realize that it's the 70% of it, and the remaining will go into our pot where we can distribute it upon the members at a later time.
Good idea. Sage, could you give us an update on what's happening with the Samaritan
no, like I said,
shelter?
they don't have the funds.
So
They
what
don't
they
have
said
the
was,
funds?
they lied about opening.
What the old owner said was, yeah, it wasn't true. Like what he said to the newspaper was true. They don't have the income coming in from the thrift store enough to support the shelter to stay open. So they need volunteers at the thrift store in order to try to get the shelter to reopen because they don't have the funds.
So it's a funding
And
issue.
so if they sell enough stuff at the thrift store, they can at least open for lunch and showers or something, you know. It's summer now, so they don't need a live-in shelter. It's not really too big of a deal, but having the resources there, having somewhere people can get mail, having somewhere they can put down as a residency for an address and care providers so that they can get, because if you're homeless here, you need 2 special signatures of people verifying who you are and a special form from a homeless shelter signed by a homeless coordinator in order to get an ID so that they can get back to work or do whatever they want with their life, even something as basic as get medications, stuff like that. So
And what about the ordinance? Are they putting obstacles in the way deliberately, the city
I don't
council?
think that's affecting them, is what he said. It's not that's really not affecting him because they're not a long-term shelter, they're not a living shelter, they're not a rehabilitation facility. The ordinance is not really affecting them. What they need is money.
I think what we can all do is just go to the thrift store and buy some stuff. Just
That too, yeah. Volunteer.
And then
Well, we
hours
could have a
a week,
fundraiser. How about
you
that?
know.
Yeah.
Fundraiser to raise money for the shelter.
What time on
Fundraiser
that
is a great
Sunday do we
idea.
want to, what time on the Sunday?
They
Say
just
2
did one at
2
the
o'clock, okay.
at the college is like a fashion show fundraiser.
Did they make
Yeah, they
some
did something
They
recently.
made some money, yeah, but he has employees that are, you know what I mean?
Should we invite Samaritan House
I need to get
board to
paid.
work with us
In order.
kind of as a co-op, or is that too much right now?
That is up to the coalition. You know,
I would talk to
philanthropy.
him, is-
And yeah, we can just talk to
philanthropy
them.
and presence is how we're gonna grow members. You know, and especially at that point in time where we need people to go out there and help grow more members, which I think should count as part of the way that you pay for your dues. So if you go out there and you recruit people into it, that's the same as you bringing in, you know, I have an ideal with that Samaritan House and just something that I've done before. I walked in there once, found a product, bought for $5, sold it for 300 and some odd dollars online. Okay. So maybe with that in mind, place to sell things, or maybe, you
A
know,
system with like online resale or something.
Where people are actually knowledgeable about the products, because I bought something there for $5 and I sold it for thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
People there that just don't understand the value of their products.
there's
And
a
if they
little,
did understand it, they could use that money to help the Samaritan House.
so there's
Just
a,
like get some people to be better appraisers. Literally, you can use the AI right now to take a picture of something, and you get an appraisal rate very easily. But the people there just don't do it. And that service gets passed on to people that aren't the homeless, like me, who took advantage of it when I found it.
I hear you. Wow.
this is Google Lens. I just used this to tell me what this thing is. Of course, it identified it as a baton, which I guess, and it gave a value for it. So that's kind of techie, but it's basically just using your camera to identify what the object is. But there's money hiding out there.
Oh, for sure.
That
I don't think
second,
Oh,
they
yeah.
need somebody that actually understands how like praise in the modern day. And that would be a very useful skill for them to have.
that second Walmart out there is just any space where people sell stuff. And if they do it coalition style, they're raising money, they're paying themselves. And in my case, if I sell something at one of these coalition events, I'm not keeping 70%.
I mean, do you have
We
extra
have too much
space
to build.
with
I'm
your
putting it
nonprofits
to the
and
coalition.
I have so much space.
You can
I
conduct-
even have a basement that doubles my space.
If you have extra space, then you could probably,
Or find
No,
an
if you could-
object.
if you can get a full-time volunteer over there, somebody to work with them, and you obviously want to talk to the guy who's running it right now, but,
I have computers.
what what you probably want to do is get, you know, anything of asset or value listed on Facebook Marketplace or listed on eBay or whatever, store it at your place where it's safe, you know, and then try to resell it, you know, over there. And then have them continue their general.
That's my side business right now, so I'm more than welcome to do that.
Yeah, continue their general, you know what I mean, processing. If you're already doing that, you know a lot about that. I don't really know
I've been
anything
reselling for
about that
about
kind of
a
stuff,
year
so,
now.
yeah.
It's just a side gig. I find it
Yeah.
fun. 'Cause
Artists,
I
yes.
collect things.
Does anyone know any artisans, painters,
Well, I used to
jewelry
make-
makers?
I
But
used
yeah, you should
to,
definitely talk to
but
him
all the
about
supplies are
that.
gone.
He's gonna be there
Josh, do you do
Monday if
legal
you're
work
not
Out of state,
super busy.
I'm an assistant district attorney,
you're what?
I'm the
I
assistant.
know you are,
but
but
I don't have my license anywhere else. I'm trying to get it right now in Massachusetts, which is my home state.
I'm the advocate for a couple of guys in Texas, okay? Innocent, one especially, he's out on parole. And he raised money for a lawyer halfway and now it's at a standstill.
I can do federal stuff, but I can't do Texas stuff.
You can't do Texas.
No, only New Mexico right now. I've only been
No.
a lawyer about 7 years.
Okay. Could you still give him advice over the phone? Is that possible?
Mm.
Or you can't do that
I
either?
can't give legal advice to somebody in another jurisdiction
I
because
see.
one, I'm
I
probably
get
not
it.
competent enough to know it. So I don't study their statutes and laws.
I hear you.
And two, my job as a DA, I can't practice legal work besides something that just benefits myself, like a contract or like a settlement arbitration thing.
I got
I
it.
can't represent somebody else because I
Okay.
represent the state. I represent society.
I got it.
Well,
So you could be an ombudsman,
Yeah, I'm gonna
Oh,
go.
what is
you
it?
can be
Drink
like
beer?
an ombudsman
Do I drink
or
beer?
a,
Oh, yeah.
Mediator?
Do you want a beer?
Like an arbitrator? Yeah.
I'm gonna go to a charity
Because I'm not
concert
picking
real
a
quick
side.
down
I'm
here
just
at
resolving
so you
this.
can't be retained,
Fundraiser, I'll buy you a beer.
but you can be a
Okay.
mediator.
I'm trying to get my student loans paid off, so I've
As in,
been an
after
adult
we
servant
finish
for
it,
7
or
years. So 3 more to
Yeah.
go, and then I can
Are we
get
gonna
those all
drive
discharged.
somewhere?
I'll grab
Do
my
whatever I
bike, I'll
want.
meet you there.
You wanna go to
That has been my
Yeah.
process, my 10-year
I'll
plan.
meet you there on my bike.
But I'm just,
It'll only
I'm
take me
bored.
15 minutes.
Other things.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
You can sit down now.
Okay. Yeah, we can relax now. Let me turn this off.
This sounds like a nonprofit music festival with an auction,
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
auction of sorts. I've been to quite a few nonprofits.
And a skill